Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Metropole Television. We are live at Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms. I am at Kiage Simba. Welcome to Metropole Television. And let's get into those Monday conversations. Emotional intelligence at the workplace. Now, emotional intelligence is a capacity to recognize and effectively manage personal emotions in ourselves and others. Today, we look at what emotional intelligence is, why it's important, and how it can be used at the workplace. Now, to take us through these conversations, we are joined by Derek Bhanga, a coach and facilitator at Public Image, and trainer and coach and a facilitator with his public company Image, where he supports organizations and individuals for high performance by helping them promote emotional intelligence, leadership, communication, and executive presence skills. Derek, welcome to Metropole Television.
Good morning, man. I'm delighted to be here.
Delighted to have you around. Let's, on a basic level, understand what emotional intelligence is.
Yeah, well, first of all, I've got to say I was impressed with your definition. And, you know, if you Google emotional intelligence, you will find probably over 1 million hits.
Yes.
There are different definitions depending on what school of thought you come from. I like this one. I'm with an organization called Genos International.
Yes.
And we talk about managing, perceiving, and expressing emotions, which all of us have, but in a way that benefits you and benefits the other person. So it's about channeling all of this data that we have, because really that's what emotions are,
yes,
but doing in a way that helps us be more effective in our relationships and also to build engagement, particularly since we're talking about work. And how people feel through managing and expressing those emotions changes the way they feel.
Yes.
And the way that they feel changes how they engage with you. And that engagement is the basis of any relationship, whether it's professional or personal.
Isn't it? Mm-hmm. So, Rick, emotional intelligence, this is a skill that somebody has to learn, isn't it? Let's put it back to the workplace. Is it important, therefore, that for any other person who's at the workplace, that this is a skill that has to be continuously taught, number one, to the managers, and then the employees as well? But let's talk about that perspective now.
Yeah.
Managers and employees, which skill, who does it need to get to first?
So, you know, the World Economic Forum has put out statistics, and
yes,
every year they put out a list of skills that are needed, and they project those skills forward, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years. Since 2015, emotional intelligence has been one of those skills that they say that in this brave new world,
yes,
obviously with the health crisis, we have that we're dealing with, but we're talking about the fourth industrial revolution, we're talking about artificial intelligence, we're talking about big data, all of the things that are affecting our workplaces today. Actually, the skill of emotional intelligence and skills related to emotional intelligence, like creativity, like being able to work together, are not a nice to have in the workplace, Simba. These are a must have. Work is about engagement.
Yes.
And as a manager or a team leader, because this was your question, you need to be able to engage your team. You need to be able to get them to be motivated, to be more productive, to be able to have certain values. All of those skills are part of what we call emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Now, it could be about being authentic, it could be about having self-management, resilience, empathy, gratitude. All of these buzzwords are not just words in the air. And a lot of people, when they think of EI or emotional intelligence, it's like, what is this woo-woo thing?
Yes.
It's actually about being able to use these particular skills to get the most out of your team.
Yes.
Yeah. To me, it's like walking around with an invisible briefcase or toolbox, if you will, and you open that toolbox and you use it when it applies.
Yes.
Use it with your team, use it with your customers, use it with your stakeholders.
Pretty much. I'm going to ask you this interesting
Sure.
question that I came across, especially when I've run into conversations on emotional intelligence. People say, Derek, but that might be a mystery or a fallacy, I don't know how you're going to put it, that personal traits sometimes affect the type of skill somebody gets out of any emotional intelligence training. That indeed, even when we're talking about emotional intelligence, personal traits for employees and leaders actually override any emotional intelligence skill that you may want to teach or impact on any other individual. Is that true?
No, so that's not necessarily true.
Yes.
You see, from where I'm sitting, we look at emotional intelligence, and I'm talking about Genos, the organization that I'm with.
Yes.
It's observable behaviors. Now, certainly, personality plays a little bit and a part of how you behave in certain circumstances.
Yes.
But like you alluded to, it's a skill. So whether you are this type of a personality or you're that type of a personality, it's about actually practicing certain behaviors, making certain decisions that then affect our performance.
Yes.
So I'll actually say, you know what, personality doesn't play a huge part. It plays some part, but that can be quote unquote overridden
Yes.
by being able to practice this particular skill. All of us have that innate ability. All of us have the ability, for example, to bring out empathy. A much needed skill, for example, in this health crisis that we're going through, or working from home, or team leaders leading teams remotely. That doesn't mean that if I have a narcissistic personality, that I cannot activate the empathy gene, if you will.
Yes.
It can. We can do certain things that let our team members know that we're thinking about them and that we're able to, help them to be more productive and to be motivated.
Pretty much. Now, then comes the question of the role of the human resource departments that we have and workplaces and impacting emotional skills in the employees as well. So, are we at a catch-22? Again, this is a question that I run into most of the times. They say that if you look at work policies, most of the human resource departments would rather stick to the work policies as opposed to impacting the skills of emotional intelligence on the employees, in the sense that, if I'm supposed to come to work at 7, if I'm not supposed to make noise, if I'm not supposed to make a phone call, if I'm not supposed to fight, it means that I'm sticking to the policies of the workplace, meaning no need for emotional intelligence because it's a rule.
Let me counter that by saying there is something called emotional reasoning.
Yes.
And when we talk about emotional reasoning, it is about employing our gut feeling, if you will, about any situation you might face with a member of your team, together with, say, the company policy. You bring the technical data, the facts, the policy, you marry that with what your emotions are telling you about that particular situation, and then you make what is called an expansive decision. You make a decision based on values. You make a decision that's going to work out for the best for that person and the best for you.
Yes.
It's not just about HR policy. It's not just about going by the book. This is where EI kicks in, and this is where, particularly as team leaders and managers, you have to become smarter at being more expansive with your decision making. Taking company values, you're taking the company policy, but you also marry that with compassion.
Yes.
You marry that with gratitude. You marry that with empathy. And then you make a decision that's going to work out in the favor of both of you.
When does emotional intelligence training end, Derek? Or it's a continuous process? When you're at work, it's something that you have to continue learning. Yes.
Yeah, it's a journey. It's not the destination.
Yes.
And, Mike Tyson, for example, right? He has this quote, which I love to use, that you can train, and I'm obviously not quoting it verbatim, but you can train all you want for a big title fight. And then when you get in the ring, the moment that one punch lands, your 6 months of training goes out the window because you have to deal with that particular situation. Similarly, we will fall. We will make certain decisions. We will behave in ways that are not emotionally intelligent. But we pick ourselves off, we dust ourselves down, and we start all over again. So it's about continuously practicing. What we want to do is lead us to start making decisions, and good decisions made over a period of time. People say that is a pattern of behavior. this is how this boss or this manager or this team member will behave under these circumstances, because there is a track record. And then ultimately that leads to hopefully a better performance. So you work at it, a skill. Just like a footballer learns how to curl the ball around a wall, they practice that tens of thousands of times, the same way that we will do with some of these emotional intelligence competencies or traits, if you will.
Yes. All right, let's come back to the economy then. I know you are in contact with a lot of companies and HR professionals.
Yeah.
Do you think that we as an economy have realized the importance of prioritizing emotional intelligence skills at the workplace, or we're still stuck on company policy will take us through?
You know, I'm so glad you asked that question, because in a lot of countries, certain countries in the West, emotional intelligence has become, as I said, not a nice to have, but a must have. You look at countries like Australia, you look at countries like Denmark, some of the Scandinavian countries. First of all, they introduce EI to children who are as young as in primary school. They're already beginning to teach them some of these things. Yeah, they really are.
Does that show that there is quite a technical skill to have, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. I will actually say it is a technical skill, because you look at it, and this parliamentarians in certain countries will have people who will come and talk to them about EI, or they go into EI training.
Yes.
In fact, I remember there was a call for the Australian government most recently to employ a chief empathy officer because of how the country was dealing with the health crisis and making decisions that people were not particularly in favor of, or they had a mixed reaction to that. So there was a call, employ a chief empathy officer to be able to present the message of how we are dealing with this particular health crisis in this country.
Okay.
I honestly believe that if we brought this into the mainstream and everybody in an organization went through this sort of training, which we've already started. We're working with big banks, we're working with insurance companies, working with manufacturing companies, because people are realizing that we are human beings. We are not robots, we come to work, we have emotions. Those emotions are not to be checked at the door. They're not to be brought to the workplace and expressed in ways that people say, you know what, you need to be less emotional. But it's about using those emotions in ways that are going to create engagement, create better relationships, and everybody is a winner at the end of the day.
Pretty much. Let's digress a bit and see exactly what it is that you're doing as well, because I know you're promoting a conference that starts on the 13th of October. Can you talk to me into that? Who are you targeting? Why are you targeting these people, and what are you intending to achieve out of this conference?
Yeah, so we're holding an emotional intelligence conference on the 13th and the 14th of October.
Yes.
Yeah, this is one of the first conferences of this type.
Yes.
And we are covering all of East Africa, so we'll have participants from Uganda, Tanzania, hopefully Ethiopia, and obviously from Kenya. We're targeting professionals across the whole swathe of industry. So we have people from banking, we have people from insurance, we have people from manufacturing who are going to participate. We have CEOs who are going to be headline or keynote speakers, as they have become in tune with this concept of emotional intelligence. And really what we want to do is we want to show that this is something that is needed at the workplace. That whether you are at the bottom of the rung or you are the CEO of an organization, you need to begin becoming more authentic, for example, as a leader. You need to become more inspiring for your people. And all of these fall within these traits of emotional intelligence. So it's going to be a great hybrid conference. Some people will be attending it virtually. Some people will be attending it physically. It will be at the Radisson Hotel. And we're hoping for great engagement. And already the ticket sales are showing a lot of interest.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Which therefore begs me to ask you this question, Derek. Are we in this country, it must be very specific to our economy, are we treating emotional intelligence as a new concept?
Well, certain organizations are.
As a new concept totally, isn't it?
Well, when you say a new concept, in other words, this isn't training that they've ever taken their teams through. There are certain organizations that when we introduce them, so for example, we'll run an assessment of their management. Let's say their HODs, heads of department. And they will get those results, and those results, because they're actually rated by their team members or their direct reports, will tell them, well, when it comes to how you respond to feedback, when it comes to how you give directives or orders, there may be room for improvement. And so what we're saying is that organizations look at those results, look at the feedback they're getting, which is quantitative, and by the way, quantitative meaning that there is a number assigned. So if you work on a particular trait, on becoming better at getting feedback, you can take the assessment again after 6 months, and hopefully those numbers will have improved. But there's also qualitative feedback as well, and it's sort of done in a safe space, so to speak. So people can give feedback, they can give feedback anonymously, and a lot of organizations are recognizing this and actually using this as part of their KPIs.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about that. I need to be very specific to this area as well. I know you have a conference on the 13th of October that targets some major players in specific sectors and industries in the country. So what are you trying to say from this conference? That indeed you need to get your employees on emotional intelligence training, or the leaders in these companies need to be trained? Because for it to be effective, we like to think, Derek, that everybody in that company, be it the employee or the manager, needs to be on that level.
Yeah, ideally, we'd like everybody on the same level.
Yes.
It's usually nice to start with the leadership, and once it's buy-in from the leadership, then they sort of see how this can make sense for the rest of their team, or the rest of the staff, or the rest of the organization. But starting with the team members, because the team members are the team leaders, or the managers, or the heads of departments are usually the ones who are making the decisions. They're usually the ones who are driving the policy. They're usually the ones who bring the values of the organization. So start with them, and then work our way through the rest of the organization. And actually for this conference, we're looking to bring in, targeting key members of organizations, come in, listen to what is being said, look at some of the things that are being done, and how organizations are responding positively. And this is all the way through. Sales numbers go up, productivity goes up, the metrics are huge, engagement, less people taking time off, people being able to weather working from home, resilience. Every statistic that you can imagine, the numbers go up. Except for perhaps the number of people leaving the organization. Attrition goes down. So I think this is something that a lot of organizations should look at, and we're inviting all of them to come and attend.
Which therefore begs this question as well. When we're looking at impacting emotional intelligence skills to the employees now in the company, and I like the way you're saying, well, we can start with the team leaders, and then after that it goes for a trickle-down effect then to the various team members in these companies. Is it a responsibility that we can leave to the human resource, or we need to actually open emotional intelligence departments in these companies, if indeed we are saying emotional intelligence transcends every other thing that you're doing in that company?
You know, I like what you're saying about that, opening an emotional intelligence department. It isn't something that necessarily I have advocated. Now, typically we're going into organizations, we'll go to HR, we'll talk to the L&D department, so that it's part of their training, if you will, equipping their team members with these new skills. But I am not beyond advocating opening up, similarly to those calls for the Australian government to have a chief empathy officer, maybe opening up an emotional intelligence department. So folks, you heard it here first. Thank you very much.
I'll be in that department direct as well. All right, direct questions now. Just quickly as we wrap up this conversation, emotional intelligence skills, is it one that I can start learning today as an employee?
Yeah, you can start putting things into place. Now, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of information that you can read about. Ideally, coming through an organization like ours, Genos, or Public Image, or Profiles International, where you go through a sort of structured way of learning some of these skills, but these are things that you can put into practice as soon as possible. In fact, we talk about this being game-changing for business, life-changing for people. This doesn't just apply to teams at work. This can improve your relationships with your partner, with your children, with your family, with your friends.
Yes, it's a good one as well. People talk about emotional intelligence when it only comes to conflict at workplace.
Yeah, it's not
Is
just
that a
about
fallacy?
conflict. It's not just about conflict.
Yes.
Certainly when there's conflict at work, I think EI can be one of the things that can remedy that. But even in organizations where there's no conflict, first of all, you have to look at that. Because are people leaning into difficult conversations? Are people being passive aggressive? Are they avoiding talking about difficult issues?
Yes.
Under the surface, even for those organizations where there doesn't seem to be conflict, there could be other issues that are bubbling under the surface. And so EI still has a role to play there.
Pretty much. All right, the next one as well. I've got a conflict with my manager and I feel like I need it addressed on a one-on-one level. Emotional intelligence, how do I apply that?
Okay, so here's a great quote by a Greek philosopher. Anybody can be angry, but it is about being angry at the right time, at the right place, to the right degree, for the right reason. That is not easy. Unhealthy, strong emotions like anger, you have an issue with how your manager is running a department, or the manager has an issue with how a team member responds to projects. That might bring up some of these strong feelings.
Yes.
Do you go ahead and call that person in your office and yell at them? Do you choose to ignore them and instead go to the restroom and talk to an inanimate object and take out your frustrations on that? Both of those, to me, wouldn't be the best way of dealing with that issue. EI comes into play because how would you approach an issue like that with a team member that is not responding well or a manager that is not responding well? What is the best way to approach them and tell them you don't respond well to feedback, or you're not doing this particular project well? EI then tells you, well, perhaps this is a better way to approach it. Maybe do it during the person's lunchtime. Maybe do it during this person's break time or something like that. So for me, it's about engagement. And if people feel respected, validated, they feel great about themselves, they will take on even strong feedback.
Yes.
And they'll take it on, and they will even be motivated to do better. So this is why EI is needed, yeah.
Pretty much. Let's punch out like this then in a minute. I want to attend this conference on 13th October 2021. How do I go about it? Where do I get the tickets?
Yeah, so the tickets are on sale. I can leave you with the contacts. People can come in and they can buy the tickets. Well, they're on sale right now, and in fact we have, I think, advanced tickets that are available. I want to be 100% sure about that.
Yes.
But tickets are absolutely, people can get in touch with me, but I'll also leave you with some of that information if people are interested in attending this.
Pretty much. Yeah. Now you hear that? It transcends everything, emotional intelligence. When I get to learn more about that, then this conference, 13th of October 2021, is something to look forward to. Want to know exactly what that is? Get in touch with us at Metropole TVKE across all your social media platforms. You can actually even get directly in touch with Metropole TV Kenya as well. And we shall be linking you to Derek Bhanga as we look forward to that 13th October 2022. Now you do know then exactly what emotional intelligence is, especially in respect to the workplace. My name is Elijah Charles King. Good morning. We're just getting started this morning.